Dr. Jacob Glanville is an immunologist and a founding partner, CEO and president of Anti-vaxxers and Distributed Bio. He's joining us now from San Francisco, California. Really great to have you with us. What is your take on Fauci's explanation of a mandated vaccine?
So first off, thank you for having me on. So Fauci has been doing, in my opinion, an excellent job of trying to communicate the possibility, but also the limitations, so realistic expectations of what we can hope to achieve with a vaccine. So what he has made the case for is that a vaccine will likely become available towards the end of the year into early next year. There's not a guarantee, but because there are almost 180 vaccines being tested and there's 3 that are pretty far along, I think the smart money is we'll have one. What he's trying to warn everyone is that it's not just because we have a vaccine that we'll be safe, because there are many people who may choose not to take a vaccine. It could be in excess of 30% of the American population. And what he's telling the world and the United States is that it's unlikely that we're going to institute a mandate to force everyone to become vaccinated. Now, the reason this is important is that if everybody doesn't receive the vaccine, then you may not achieve enough people vaccinated to establish herd immunity, which is what is necessary to cause the infection to peter out and us to be able to return to normal.
How close do you think we are to real progress on finding a vaccine? You touched on what the effectiveness would be when we do have one, but in terms of actually getting one, where do you think we're at with that?
So I'm going to do the opposite of what most scientists do, and I'm going to speak plainly. I think the smart money is we're going to have a vaccine that works by the end of the year. We're trying a couple different things, and it looks like those are producing good antibodies. And the evidence on a whole looks like if you have good antibodies, you do enjoy protection. So I think we will have a vaccine by December or early next year. The problem is it's going to take a long time for a lot of people to get vaccinated. Not everyone's going to get a vaccine. Not everyone who gets vaccinated is going to have a good response. And we're not going to produce enough vaccine for the whole world to receive it. So realistically, with only a vaccine, most of 2021 will continue to have this crisis. That's why my company and other groups are looking towards a treatment in addition to a vaccine, something we can give to people at a hospital so the disease isn't so serious, and therefore it's not so consequential when people get infected during the year that follows, where people will still continue to come into hospitals for this virus.
Dr. Glanville, we continue to learn more about how this virus is transmitted. We've been in it for a while now, but there are reports saying that droplets, that essentially the virus can transmit longer distances through droplets in the air. I'm curious to know what your assessment is of that. And actually, a number of months ago, there was a doctor that was interviewed saying that he actually believed that on an airplane, he got the virus through droplets in his eyes, because he said he was actually wearing a mask on the airplane. He was wearing gloves. He had sanitized, but there was no social distancing on the aircraft. So in terms of the aerosols, droplets, things, what do we know about how this virus right now is being transmitted?
So here's what current policy in the United States suggests that you maintain 6 feet distance. The 6 feet distance is really an estimate for how far, when you sneeze, little droplets will travel before they hit the ground. That's assuming there's no wind. That's assuming people aren't walking. But it was a number, they had to pick one, so they picked the end of a sneeze as the defensive distance. The problem with that measurement is that you can produce through coughing or even singing smaller droplets that are aerosols that could travel much further than 6 feet. And there are a whole bunch of cases of fires or airplanes or people in a restaurant with air conditioning where a large number of people got infected that were much further away than that 6-foot measure. So an individual anecdote, like you described to the one doctor in the plane, we can't make too much about that. But when you add up all these cases of like a choir where 50 people got sick because one person in that room was probably generating aerosols, that leads us to believe that this virus has potentially achieved a certain level of airborne status. We also see that in the United States, it's all across the southern states where they're warmer that we tend to see larger infection rates and worse outbreaks. And so one possible explanation for that is that those are people that are avoiding the heat by going into air conditioning areas, and therefore they have lots of people in an area they're sharing common air. This is important for us to get to the bottom of because it affects how we define our social distancing and how we instruct that people continue in the outbreak until we have an effective medicine at hospitals.
Dr. Jacob Glanville, we really appreciate your medical expertise there. Thanks for joining us.